Okay, coming to Gallup rhythm. Gallup rhythm. So what is Gallup rhythm? Gallup rhythm is when there are three or more than three sounds. Three or more than three sounds, okay, where the extra sounds, series of three or more sounds where the extra sounds occur in diastole. Okay, three or more than three hard sounds, that was out of S1, S2, S3, S4, where the extra sounds occur in diastole. Okay, so that is Gallup rhythm. It can be a S3 Gallup, that is S1, S2, S3, S4 Gallup, that is S1, S2, S3, S4, or both S1, S2, S3 and S4. It is seen in tachycardia and left ventricular failure. Now coming to the most awaited part, that is the cardiac murmurs. Cardiac murmurs. So what is a cardiac murmur? Cardiac murmur, it is a auditory sound or vibration. It's a auditory sound or vibration which is produced by either the cardiac valves, cardiac walls, or the blood vessels. Okay, and they are of different frequency, intensity, length, duration, character. Okay, so this is called as a cardiac murmur. What are the characteristics of a cardiac murmur? Characteristics of cardiac murmur. So number one, it does not necessarily signify that there is some disease present. Okay, it can be an innocent murmur where you hear the sound but there is no disease present. Okay, number two, the systolic murmurs, the innocent murmurs are usually systolic. Innocent murmurs are usually systolic. If there is a diastolic murmur, it almost always signifies there is some disease. But if there is a systolic murmur, then it can be innocent, it can be organic. Number three, the length is more important than strength. It does not mean that if there is a very very loud murmur, then the severity of lesion is very high. But if the length of murmur is long, then it indicates that there is a more of severity of lesion. So length is more than strength. Okay, and there can be serious heart diseases. There can be serious heart diseases without a murmur, like acute myocardial infarction, or many diseases are there where there is no murmur but there are serious cardiac illnesses. Okay, now what is the mechanism of production of a murmur? Mechanism of production of a cardiac murmur. So mechanism number one is the turbulence. So to study turbulence we need to know the Reynolds number. Okay, so what is a Reynolds number? Reynolds number is diameter of channel multiplied by stream velocity. Diameter of channel multiplied by stream velocity divided by viscosity of the fluid. So if it is more than 2000, if the Reynolds number is more than 2000, then it will cause turbulence, and that may produce murmur. So remember now, if the diameter increases, like diameter of aorta it increases, the diameter of pulmonary artery if it increases, then the chances of turbulence will be high and the chances of producing a murmur will be high. Similarly, if the stream velocity, if there is obstruction, then velocity will increase. So if the stream velocity is high, then again the chances of turbulence and chances of murmurs is increased. Number 2 theory is eddy current theory. So what happens? So suppose this is the site of obstruction. And from here the stream was coming. Now because of this obstruction, there is production of eddies like this. So eddies are smoke rings. And when these smoke rings, they strike on the walls. Okay, that produces a vibration in these walls, and this vibration is heard as a murmur. So these are the two theories of production of a cardiac murmur. Next, coming to the systematic investigation. How do we systematically investigate a murmur? Systematic investigation. What all questions you need to ask yourself if you are hearing a murmur? Number first is the timing. Whether it is a systolic murmur, whether it is a diastolic murmur, or it is a continuous murmur. Whether it is a systolic murmur, a diastolic murmur, or the continuous murmur. Number second is severity. As we have discussed, in severity the length plays a more important role than strength. So length of the murmur is more significantly associated with severity of the lesion than the strength of the murmur, the intensity of the murmur. Number third is the site of maximum intensity, site at which it is best heard, So you need to auscultate the cardiac areas, okay, and the precordium as a whole. You have to auscultate the precordium as a whole, and then the other sites to know at which site it is best heard, and you have to note down that site. Okay. Number 4 is grading. The grading is for systolic murmurs. Okay, there are some books which give grading for diastolic murmurs also, but generally we use grading for systolic murmurs. So there are 6 grades. First, it is a very faint sound. Okay, and it is heard with difficulty, or it is absent in normal auscultation, but suppose there is a mitral stenosis and you ask the patient to exercise and then this brings out the murmur. So that is the grade 1 murmur. Okay. Number 2, it is of mild intensity. So I will tell you how to know what is this mild intensity. Number 3, it is moderate intensity or moderately loud. Okay, but it is not palpable. The murmur is loud, you can hear with the stethoscope, but if you touch that area, the murmur is not palpable. That means there is no thrill. So that is the grade 3 murmur. Okay. Number 4, it is a loud murmur and it is associated with a thrill. The murmur is palpable. The murmur is palpable. So that is the grade 4 murmur. So this moderately loud murmurs, that means it is equal to the hard sound. The intensity is equal to hard sounds, normal hard sounds. Mild intensity means the intensity is less than the hard sounds, less than hard sounds. And loud murmur here, that means it is more intense than hard sounds. Okay, and it is palpable. Grade 5. How to identify a grade 5 murmur? It is even more louder, associated with thrill. But if you keep a stethoscope just near to the chest wall, not touching the chest wall, but you can hear the murmur if you keep the diaphragm of the stethoscope just away from the chest wall, and you can hear the murmur with your stethoscope. So it is even a louder murmur which is heard even when stethoscope is bit far from the chest wall, but you still need a stethoscope to hear this. And grade 6, it is heard with naked ears. Heard with naked ears, you don't need a stethoscope. So these are the 6 grades of a systolic murmur. The diastolic murmurs are not graded. Some books give 4 grades, but they are not graded usually. So remember these 6 grades. This is frequently asked in Viva VOC, what are the grades of the murmur, and you have to grade each murmur which you hear. Okay. Next is the intensity behavior of the murmur. So what is the? It is intensity behavior, that is the murmur, it started at this point and it slowly increased. Slowly it increases in intensity and then so that is the crescendo murmur. Crescendo murmur. Okay. So it slowly increases in intensity, that is the crescendo murmur. Decrescendo murmur is you hear it the loudest when you hear it first, and then it decreases in intensity. It decreases in intensity. So that is the decrescendo murmur. Decrescendo murmur. Okay. And third is the combination crescendo decrescendo. It increases and then decreases, making a diamond shape. Making a diamond shape. So that is the crescendo decrescendo murmur. The quality or character. This is the most important part. That is the quality or character of the murmur. Quality or character. So first is the rumbling. What is a rumble? So imagine a wooden cart which is going over a stony pavement. Okay. So that is the rumbling murmur when the wooden cart is going on a stony pavement. So that is the rumbling murmur. Number second is blowing character. Blowing character of a murmur. So how to identify blowing? A whispering R. Whispering. If you whisper the alphabet R, what sound it produces? That is the blowing character. That is a soft murmur. This is the harsh murmur. Harsh. This is soft. Okay. So these are the quality or character of murmurs. Next is the musical murmur. Musical or seagull some murmurs, they have a musical quality. Okay, the musical quality. So that is a musical murmur. Okay, or seagull murmur or cooing murmurs. Cooing murmur. So these are the quality or character of murmurs. So rumbling murmur is usually associated with mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. Stenotic murmurs. The diastolic murmurs are regurgitant murmurs. The regurgitant murmurs are always blowing in character. So any regurgitant murmur if you hear, you have to mention with the soft blowing character of the murmur. Okay. Next is loud, harsh, rasping murmur. Okay, loud, harsh, rasping murmur which is heard in aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis. Aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis. Okay. Metamorphosing murmurs are murmurs which changes in character with time, like the murmurs in acute rheumatic carditis. So in acute rheumatic carditis, depending upon the inflammation, with treatment the inflammation will decrease and the character of murmurs will change. So that is a metamorphosing murmurs. Okay. Then left atrial myxoma. Depending upon the position of the patient, whether standing, lying down, sitting, or the position of myxoma in relation to the mitral valve, the murmur character will change. So that is the metamorphosing murmurs. Extent of the murmurs, whether it is heard in a small area or it is heard over a wide area or where it is radiating, like aortic stenosis murmur. Aortic stenosis murmur is best heard over the right second interspace, but it is heard all over the chest wall. It can be heard even on the apex. It can be, and it radiates to the carotids. So that is the extent of the murmur. It is a wide extension of the murmur, and as compared the mitral stenosis murmur, that is best heard just medial to the apex. Okay. So, and it is a murmur which is there for the very low area where the extent is very less, the extent of distribution is very less. So that is the extension. Next is radiation. So if the murmur of mitral regurgitation, it radiates to the axilla. Now why? Because the direction of papillary muscles is to the axilla. That is why the murmur of mitral regurgitation, it radiates to the axilla. Okay. And if we see the mitral valvular apparatus, so this is the annular ring. Okay. And this is the posterior mitral leaflet encircling the anterior mitral leaflet. Okay, so this is the anterior mitral leaflet, this is the posterior mitral leaflet, and there are chordae tendineae. These chordae tendineae are attached with papillary muscles into the left ventricular wall. So this is the mitral valvular apparatus. Now suppose the aortic, this is the anterior mitral leaflet, it stops functioning, there is rupture and the anterior mitral leaflet stops functioning. So the blood will go through which mitral leaflet more? It will produce vibration in which leaflet more? It will produce vibration in the posterior mitral leaflet, because that has to work more. So vibration in posterior mitral leaflet will be more. So in cases where there is AML rupture or the papillary muscle rupture which was keeping the AML anterior mitral leaflet, So there is rupture of that pulmonary muscle, AML is not working, the regurgitant flow will go through PML. It will make vibrations in the PML, and that is why those murmurs will be radiated towards back side, towards PML side, that is towards the scapula. And otherwise, if there is PML stops functioning, the vibrations will be more in AML, and these murmurs will be radiated towards from the apex, it will be radiated towards the base of the heart, So where PML, posterior mitral leaflet, gets ruptured, okay, where posterior mitral leaflet gets ruptured, not working, then the murmur will be radiated towards the anterior chest, and where anterior stops working, the murmur will radiate towards posterior part of the chest, that is towards the scapula. Okay, so you have to mention the radiation. Next is, suppose there are two murmurs are present, both of them are diastolic murmurs. Now how will you differentiate these two murmurs? Then that is where we use the inching method. In inching method, we start auscultation in one area, and slowly we take the step towards other areas, okay, and we see what is happening to the character of the murmur. Either the character of murmur will increase, and at the site where it is best heard, that is the lesion, okay. And if the character of the murmur decreases, then again that means that is the same murmur, whether it is increasing in character or decreasing in character, that is one murmur which is behaving like this by inching method. So this is the triangular, it is making a triangle shape. Number second is the hourglass. If it is making an hourglass shape, like it is increasing or decreasing, and then decreasing, so that is making a hourglass, or decreasing and then increasing. That means there are two murmurs which are present, okay. So you have to separate those murmurs. If it is making a hourglass shape, that means there are two murmurs. If it is making a triangular shape, that means it is one murmur, okay. Now coming to the most important part, that is the lesions and classification of murmurs, okay. So this is the most important part, and please listen carefully, this will be with you for whole life. So this is the first heart sound, S1. This is the second heart sound, S2, and now this is the first heart sound again, that is S1. So between S1 and S2, you know that is the systole, and between S2 and S1, you know it is diastole, okay. Now I told you that if the valves, they have open, normal valves, if they open, they do not produce any sound, but if they open in systole and make a sound, that sound is heard as a click, So here in early part of systole, you may hear a click. If you hear this in aortic area, that is the aortic click, and if you hear in pulmonary area, it is the pulmonary click, okay. So likewise, okay, next there are murmurs which start with S1 and increase in intensity slowly, okay, and it ends before S2. It ends before S2. So that is the crescendo decrescendo murmur or a diamond shaped murmur. So the murmur, it starts with S1, it ends before S2, a crescendo decrescendo murmur. So this kind of murmur is seen in aortic stenosis or pulmonary stenosis. Aortic stenosis or pulmonary stenosis. Okay, click. You can hear in aortic stenosis, bicuspid aortic valve or dilatation of aorta, and in aortic stenosis you will hear a crescendo decrescendo murmur which starts with S1, increase in intensity, ends before S2, and the maximum intensity is there in mid part of systole. So the mid part of systole there is maximum intensity. This is the ejection systolic murmur, or also known as mid systolic murmur. It can be called both because it is starting with S1, so it can be ejection systolic murmur, and the maximum intensity is heard in mid part of systole, so it is also known as mid systolic murmur. So understood, it can be heard in aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis. Next, we will take up the pathology of mitral valve prolapse. So this is the mitral valve. Okay, mitral valve. This is the left atrium. This is the left ventricle. Now, what happens in mitral valve prolapse? As the left ventricle is contracting, the pressure is rising. So the initial part of the systole, the mitral valve, it balloons up, but it is still closed. It balloons up, but it is still closed. It is able to contain that pressure. It is able to absorb that pressure, and it is not prolapsing yet in first part of the systole. But as the pressure rises more in the left ventricle, this mitral valve, which is in certain syndromes like Marfan syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that mitral valve, it prolapses into left atrium. It prolapses into left atrium in late part of systole, and then we will hear the blood will regurgitate back in the late part of systole into the left atrium. So we will hear a late systolic murmur, during the end part of systole. So that is seen in mitral valve prolapse. Okay. Now, there can be some conditions where the murmur will start with S1. It will be of same intensity throughout the systole. It can end with S2 or just before S2. That murmur, it is of same intensity throughout. This is known as a pansystolic murmur. And this is seen in mitral regurgitation and tricuspid regurgitation. That is seen in mitral regurgitation and tricuspid regurgitation. So understood? These are the systolic murmurs. Okay, ejection systolic, also known as mid systolic murmur, seen in aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis. The pansystolic murmur seen in mitral regurgitation and tricuspid regurgitation, and late systolic murmur seen in mitral valve prolapse. So these are the systolic murmurs. Okay, now coming to diastolic murmurs. In the early part of diastole, when the blood is coming back because of elastic recoil of aorta, when the blood is coming back in the early part of diastole, when the ventricles are relaxing, but the aortic valves are not able to close. The aortic valves are not able to close, the blood leaks back into the left ventricle from the aorta or into the right ventricle from pulmonary artery in the early part of diastole. So that produces a early diastolic murmur. That produces a early diastolic murmur. And this is seen in aortic regurgitation and pulmonary regurgitation. Okay. Now I told you opening snap, I have described you. Then opening snap can occur at this level. There can be a opening snap when the mitral valve or the tricuspid valve have difficulty in opening. They open in diastole, they are having difficulty in opening. We can hear an opening snap, and that is seen in mitral stenosis or tricuspid stenosis in the mid part of diastole. Next, after opening snap, the blood is coming from left atrium into the left ventricle, but that blood is passing through a stenosed mitral valve, and we can hear a mid diastolic murmur. So this mid diastolic murmur, again it is seen in mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. In the end part of diastole, there is an atrial kick. The atria gives extra kick. There is an atrial systole, and that extra blood, extra pressure is exerted against a stenosed valve. Okay, and that will cause accentuation of the mid diastolic murmur. The mid diastolic murmur, it will increase in intensity because of atrial systole. The blood has to pass through a narrow orifice, so the mid diastolic murmur, it will increase in intensity. This is known as pre-systolic accentuation of mid diastolic murmur. The pre-systolic accentuation of mid diastolic murmur is seen again in mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. So what all murmurs we can hear in tricuspid mitral stenosis? Opening snap, mid diastolic murmur with pre-systolic accentuation. Now remember, if the patient is in atrial fibrillation, the atria is not able to contract properly, the pre-systolic accentuation will disappear. OS will never disappear. Even after mitral valvulotomy, OS will not disappear. But pre-systolic with AF, OS will not disappear. And S2 OS gap, it will keep on decreasing, keep on getting smaller with increasing severity of the lesion. Okay, so this is the significance of S2 OS gap. But the pre-systolic accentuation will be lost if the patient is in AF. So if you mention the pulse as irregular, never mention pre-systolic accentuation. Okay, that will be a blunder. So pre-systolic accentuation of mid diastolic murmur, it is seen in mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. Now, so I think this completes the diastolic murmurs. There the systolic murmurs, diastolic murmurs, and now the continuous murmurs. So the murmur which starts in systole, it goes on till diastole for more than 2/3. It can be continuous or it extends for more than 2/3 of diastole. These are known as continuous murmurs. And these continuous murmurs are seen in PDA, patent ductus arteriosus. So remember I told you, heard over the just below the clavicle inner border. Okay, so there you hear the PDA murmur. So these are the murmurs which are I have described. So easy way to remember is, if the aortic valve and pulmonary valve, they are not able to open, means they are stenosed, that will produce a ejection systolic murmur or the mid systolic murmur. And if the aortic valve and pulmonary valve are not able to close, that will produce a early diastolic murmur. So both ejection systolic, early diastolic. Okay. If the mitral valve and tricuspid valve, they are not able to close, that will produce a pansystolic murmur. And if the mitral valve and tricuspid valves, they are not able to open, that means they are stenosed, that will produce a mid diastolic murmur. So this figure is clear all. Now we come to the named murmurs. So there are 4 or 5 named murmurs that can be asked in Viva Voce, because names of scientists. So few examiners are very fond of asking name of scientists and named murmurs. So we'll be taking up the 4 or 5 named murmurs. So first is the Still's murmur. Still's murmur, it is seen in children and it is an innocent murmur. There is no lesion. With increasing age it will disappear, and seen in children there is innocent murmur. There is no organic lesion associated with Still's murmur. Next is Austin Flint murmur. So it is seen in aortic regurgitation. So what is the mechanism? It is a mid-diastolic murmur. Actually it is a mid-diastolic murmur. So people get confused hearing this murmur that it is a mitral stenosis, but actually that is the aortic regurgitation. So what is the mechanism? So we take the left ventricle and this is aorta. Here is the mitral valve. Okay, mitral valve. Now the regurgitant flow which is coming back, this regurgitant flow will increase the diameter of aorta. The aorta will dilate because of regurgitant flow, and this dilatation exerts a pressure on the mitral valve and it causes a functional narrowing. There is no pathology in mitral valve, but there is a functional narrowing because the dilated aorta, it exerts a pressure on the mitral valve, makes it closed. Okay, makes it closed. In diastole, left mitral valve is open and the blood is coming from left atrium to the left ventricle, but the blood is also coming from aorta, and this dilated aorta, it will exert a pressure which will cause functional narrowing of mitral valve, and that will cause a mid diastolic murmur which is seen in aortic regurgitation, that is the Austin Flint murmur. So A for A. Next is Carey-Combe murmur. So Carey-Combe murmur is seen in acute rheumatic carditis. So what happens in acute rheumatic carditis? Because of inflammation of the mitral valve. Okay, the mitral valve is not able to open properly. That will be a mid diastolic murmur which is heard. So that is the Carey-Combe murmur, and it will disappear with the treatment, and when the inflammation subsides, this will disappear. Carucum murmur, it will disappear. So that is a mid-diastolic murmur of acute rheumatic carditis. So there is the Carucum murmur. Next is the Gibson's murmur. Gibson's murmur. So Gibson's murmur is the continuous murmur of PDA. Continuous murmur of patent ductus arteriosus. I told you it is heard best over the inner border of just below the clavicle, and that is also known as Gibson's murmur. And last is the Graham-Steele's murmur. Graham-Steele's murmur. Because of dilatation of pulmonary artery by whatever cause, whether it is a primary pulmonary hypertension or secondary pulmonary artery hypertension, there is a early diastolic murmur of pulmonary regurgitation because of either primary pulmonary hypertension, secondary pulmonary hypertension, whatever cause. So this early diastolic murmur of pulmonary hypertension is known as Graham-Steele's murmur. So these are the named murmurs. Okay, Steele's, Austin Flint, Carucum C for carditis, and Gibson's murmur and Graham-Steele's murmur. Now the last and very small topic remaining, that is the pericardial rub. Pericardial rub. So you know the pericardium, it consists of two layers. Pericardium does consist of two layers. The visceral and parietal layers, and because of acute pericarditis, there is inflammation. There can be other causes, pulmonary embolism, and there are some other causes, but generally pericardial rub is associated with acute pericarditis. Okay, and it is heard best over the mid-precordial area, because between the pulmonary area and the apex, in the mid-precordial area, and it is a rough rumbling murmur, rough sound, rough scratchy sound, as if there is a friction of the two sandpapers. Okay, friction of two sandpapers. So that is the pericardial rub seen in acute pericarditis. So friends, this finishes our complete examination of the cardiovascular system. I hope you liked all the videos, and please like, share and subscribe, and share among your friends if you liked the videos. Thank you.